You imagine yourself a young knight from a child's story, marrying the princess. But you must know, Pip, I have no heart.
I say, Pip, old chap, never the best of friends.
Never the best of friends, dear.
Come along, boy. Do you wish to see Miss Havisham?
Come here, let me look at you. Are you sullen and obstinate?
No, Mum.
He's a common neighbouring boy. You could break his heart.
What do you think of her?
I think she's very pretty.
You may kiss me, if you like.
He has come into a handsome fortune. It is the desire of the benefactor that he be brought up as a gentleman in London. There are conditions, of course. The first is that the name of the benefactor remain a profound secret.
You kiss my hand as if I was a queen.
Pip. When you say you love me, I understand it, but it touches nothing. Here.
I've been made that way.
I was under the impression that the Finches was a club for gentlemen. Who are you? How did you get in here?
I'm Major. I've made a gentleman of you.
Is it true?
You are prohibited from making any inquiries into this question.
Is she beautiful? Is she graceful? Do you admire her?
How can you give your affections to that man? The looks and smiles you never give to me.
You want me to deceive you?
Do you deceive him?
Yes! All men but you.
Jaggers, you must tell me.
If he's found, he will hang.
You risked your life to come to me.
You believed what you chose to believe.
Was that kind?
Who am I to be kind?
I was sent for life. It's death to come back.
I stole her heart away and put ice in its place.
It's not natural.
It is natural in me.
Yet still, I love you.
Written in 1860 and one of the most canonical Victorian novels, Charles Dickens' Great Expectations narrates the coming of age of Pip Pirrip, an orphan adopted by a poor family in England. Despite a hard childhood, Pip grows up to find happiness through friendship and love, rather than money and social status. The book opens with Pip as a young boy visiting his parents' gravestones on Christmas Eve. A man in a prison uniform, a convict, startles Pip and threatens to kill him if he does not bring food and a file to cut the shackle off his leg. Frightened, Pip runs home to his sister, Mrs. Jo Gregory, and his adoptive father, Joe Gregory. His sister is an abusive woman who resents both raising her orphaned brother and being the wife of an unambitious blacksmith. Pip finds solace from her rages in Joe's kindness. The next morning, Pip steals food from the pantry and a file from Joe's workshop for the convict, who is nonetheless caught by soldiers later that night. Pip feels guilty for stealing, but his act of kindness softens the convict's heart, leading him to confess to his crime. Early in the novel, Pip is called to entertain Miss Havisham, a wealthy recluse living in a dilapidated mansion called the Satis House. There, Pip meets the beautiful and cruel young girl, Estella, and is instantly infatuated. One day, Miss Havisham shows Pip a great banquet hall where a table is set with rotten food and a large wedding cake, untouched for years. He learns that years before, Miss Havisham's groom abandoned her on their wedding day. Miss Havisham's relatives still visit on that day every year, which is also her birthday. Estella toys with Pip, inviting him to give her a kiss before he leaves. Pip dreams about becoming a wealthy gentleman and marrying Estella. But soon, Miss Havisham decides that Pip must begin his indenture as a blacksmith with Joe, and ends Pip's visits to the mansion. Pip is miserable, ashamed of his low-class status. 4 years later, a lawyer named Jaggers finds Pip and tells him that an anonymous benefactor has granted him a large monthly stipend. He must move to London and learn to live as a gentleman. Although this is a dream come true for Pip, he will find London disenchanting and miss Jo terribly. In London, Pip lives with Herbert Pocket, who becomes a good friend and mentor. Herbert tells Pip that Miss Havisham adopted Estella and raised her to exact revenge on boys and young men by cruelly breaking their hearts. But Miss Havisham also hints that she is Pip's benefactor, and Pip assumes that she wants him to ascend in class status so that he can marry Estella. Soon, Pip is invited to dinner by Jagger's clerk, Wemmick, who has a fantastical private life, which is the opposite of his unimaginative professional demeanor at work. Although Wemmick lives in a small cottage, his home has been modified to look like an elaborate castle. Wemmick lives with an elderly, deaf relative whom he calls the Aged. Pip finds Wemmick an entertaining host, and he soon becomes a trusted friend. Meanwhile, as the years pass, Estella becomes even colder and more beautiful and moves to London. One day, Pip returns home to attend his sister's funeral. He visits with Jo and Biddy, his close childhood friend. Biddy is disappointed in Pip and doesn't believe he will ever return home as he promises. She sees through his pretentiousness. Back in London, Estella begins courting Bentley Drummle, the most repulsive of Pip's acquaintances. One stormy night, when Pip is 23, a rough man of 60 arrives at Pip's London home. The man, Abel Magwitch, proudly reveals that he is Pip's benefactor and the same convict Pip helped years earlier. At that time, Magwitch swore to himself that he would give all his future earnings to Pip. Magwitch tells Pip he had a daughter who died soon after birth. Pip is horrified, despondent that there is no grand design to usher him into marriage with Estella. He returns to Satis House, angry with Miss Havisham for misleading him. He confesses his love to Estella, but she declares she will soon marry Drummle. Pip returns again to make peace with Miss Havisham, who apologizes for hurting him. Then she accidentally sets herself on fire, and Pip saves her, but burns himself during the rescue. Pip soon learns the secret that Estella is Magwitch's daughter. Pip feels ashamed of Magwitch. He feels an obligation to help him escape the police. Wemmick sends Pip a secret note warning him that he should leave the country with Magwitch. Pip and Herbert hatch a plan to help Magwitch escape by river. But Magwitch's old enemy, Compeyson, pursues him by boat. Compeyson is also the very man who swindled and abandoned Miss Havisham on her wedding day. As a steamer crushes Pip's boat, Compeyson drowns in a struggle with Magwitch. Magwitch is sent back to prison and sentenced to death. Although Pip has rejected Magwitch's money and fallen into debt, Pip still visits him every day and grows close to him. One day, Pip whispers to him that the daughter he thought was dead is alive. "She is a lady and very beautiful," Pip says, "and I love her." Magwitch kisses Pip's hand in response, then dies. Having led a reckless life and rejecting Magwitch's money, Pip falls into debt and develops a fever for nearly a month. When he regains his senses, he sees that Jo has been there the whole time, nursing him back to health. Meanwhile, Miss Havisham has died, leaving Estella nearly all her wealth. Pip discovers that Jo has paid off all Pip's debtors. Pip decides he will return home to Jo and ask Biddy to marry him. In fact, he discovers that Jo and Biddy are to marry that day. He asks for their forgiveness for everything he has done. Pip goes abroad to work for Herbert's firm. 11 years later, Pip still lives as a bachelor. He has succeeded in his career without Magwitch's money. He returns to the Saddest house one last time, where he happens to see Estella, who seeks his friendship and forgiveness. Estella has been heartbroken, as Drummle treated her poorly and then died. Pip has loyal and lasting friends in Joe, Herbert, and Wemmick, whereas Estella has only jealous and bitter relatives. As the two walk out of the overgrown garden hand in hand, there is hope that they will finally spend their true lives together.